So it is Wednesday, second workout day of the week, and I'm thankful to God for today, for waking up, being in good health, as far as I know, feeling good. Um, this morning I was at my job again and looking out the window, so I was listening to the Bible on my work iPhone. I was listening to First Kings, and as I looked up out the window into the field where there are normally a lot of deer, probably like 17, 18 deer out there. And I looked, and probably a second later, I hear from the Bible um, the word roebuck, talking about the deer, or something that's. I think I looked up roebuck, and it's like a picture of a deer, so it could have been talking about deer or something that was like a deer, or who knows, but I think it was actually referring to a deer. Point is the precision of God, just to have that happen. The word roebuck is only mentioned one time, I believe, in the book of First Kings. So that kind of thing just happens, seems like so often. I never want to take it for granted. But just another message that God is precise. I've been reading a book by a pastor that I really admired named Charles Stanley. He died, so he's now in heaven. But one of the things he said was, whatever happens, take it as coming from God. God is teaching you. He's accomplishing his purpose through these things, good or bad, that happen in our lives. So if something happens, take it as coming from God. And what I'm thinking now is, I always think about the negative things. But I suppose it applies for the positive things too in our lives. Take those things as coming from God. Not necessarily that you deserve it, but that he's giving you his grace and mercy. Today work was awesome once again. I feel like sometimes when you ask people, yeah, how you doing? And they'll sarcastically say, living the dream. And for me, I just feel like that's actually true right now. The way my jobs have been set up, and just working out, playing ball, I feel like I'm living the dream. So I'm just so thankful. And there's times in our lives where we're going through trials. There's trials I go through. There seem to be more mental or more psychological, I guess, or spiritual attacks, temptations, self-conscious fears about things. But there are a lot of just good things going on, and so I'm thankful for that. Talked to my brother today, and we were just talking about our childhood and some of the things we went through. And there's some things that he's upset about that he just has a hard time reconciling. And he asked me what I thought about a lot of those things. And I was telling him how, even though we went through the same exact things, it was like God did different things in us. At that time in my life, I had a really close relationship with God, even though things weren't perfect. And I know God shielded me from certain things, and it made me think about just been hearing certain pastors, and even what you read in the Bible, after Jesus died and was resurrected and then went back to heaven. Many came to become Christians, and then there was a great persecution, and a lot of people were scattered various places. But that persecution affected his closest apostles. And two of them, James and Peter, were put into jail, prison or whatever. And James had his head cut off, I believe. He was executed. And Peter, I believe he was supposed to be executed the next morning. He was rescued in the middle of the night by an angel who woke him up. He was in a deep sleep because I guess he couldn't have been too worried. The angel wakes him up, and then he ends up escaping. And according to church, I guess tradition, he was executed sometime later. But and even in the Bible, Jesus said, when you get older, Peter, somebody's gonna take you somewhere you don't want to go. So that was indicating the type of death he was gonna die. But at that time, God chose to rescue him, and it made me think about my wife. She's been trying to encourage a person who's going through some difficult times, and he's like, when God doesn't answer your prayers, then what? And I think we all are there sometimes when we feel like, God, why? And don't know. But it's just one of the things that happened for me today. I'm just kind of saying my random thoughts. One thing that was very encouraging, and I was going to say this, we all need encouragement regardless of age, was Baller Nation. I don't know if you're watching this, but that was just such an encouraging comment that you had on my video. Just to think that somebody would watch and listen to what I'm saying and think, yeah, this is somewhat helpful or whatever it is. So I was so appreciative, and it's very encouraging because as we get older, I think we really want to feel like we're being useful still. And not that I'm so old, but still, when you get in your 40s, it's just a little different than when you're in your 30s and 20s or teens or whatever. And I'm sure when I get my 50s, God willing, or 60s, it'll be different then. But let's see, 5. Let me get this set in. Try to start that set by 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, I really wanted the right words to encourage my brother, but I don't think I had them necessarily. And sometimes we just don't know. Don't know what to say and just don't know. And maybe it's kind of sad, I suppose. But God knows. He always knows. One of the things I was thinking though is I just don't want to see anybody think, well, I'm going through this situation and God hasn't answered me, therefore I'm not gonna really pray to Him or try to talk to Him. And He tells us He wants us to keep coming. In Luke chapter 18, he gives the example of the persistent widow, and He says, hey, this is an example that you should always pray and never give up. And He said there was this widow, and she kept going to this judge, and the judge did not fear God, and he didn't care about men. And she went to him day and night asking for justice. And he would say no, he declined her. But it says that she kept coming. And one day he's like, man, so that she doesn't wear me out with her just persistent coming, I'm going to give her, I'm going to give her justice. And Jesus said, won't your heavenly Father, He loves you. Will He see that you, won't He see that you, get justice? Those would be that cry out day and night. And so, it's His message that we should pray and keep praying, but then Jesus says, but when the Son of Man comes, will He find faith on the earth? And so we just got to keep going to Him, and we know that His advice is true. Some of us, if we get advice from a doctor, we take it. We get advice from a sports coach or some kind of player, or we take it. A sort of mechanic, we take it. Dietitian, we take it. A professional by the world standards, we take their advice. But then the God of the universe tells us something. And then I think us as people, we think, oh, is that gonna work? And do we mean to disrespect God? Maybe not, but I think that's what we're doing when we don't, take what He's saying, at face value. And I say we because I'm included in that. Let me get this set in. $115. I watched this video today, and the guy was saying that he will argue even with a friend to the point of almost losing the friendship if it means, he's right about this particular issue. And I think some people just want to be right, but I think there's something said for if you are right, standing for truth. And I think it depends on what the subject is. But when truth is at stake, it's very important. And is it more important than a friendship or a relationship? Well, what it made me think of when he was saying this, I thought of myself because I'm very argumentative. Those that are my loved ones know that I have that capacity. But it made me think of how Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And also he said, unless you love your father, if you don't love, or if you don't hate your father and mother and follow me, you're not worthy of me. And basically meaning that compared to how much you love him, you got to hate everything else. He says even in your own life. And the example I always thought of was, especially when I used to teach Bible study, was, okay, so Jesus says, unless you hate your father and mother, or even your own life compared to me, you're not worthy to be my disciple. And I always think of, imagine living in a household where your mother smokes cigarettes. And, she says, hey, bring me my pack of cigarettes. And you bring them to her. But then one day you turn 18 and she says, hey, can you run down to the store and get me some cigarettes? And you're 18 now. Maybe you're excited to buy the cigarettes because you can actually do that legally. You do it. But then it dawns on you, wait a second, this could kill my mother. And then your mother goes to the hospital one day and the doctor says, hey, we saw something in your lung. And then maybe a week later she says, hey, can you go to the store and give me some cigarettes to you? And then you have to decide what's right. And your mom might get mad if you say no, but what's more important? Your relationship with your mom in the sense of pleasing her at that moment, or your love and care for your mom and doing the right thing? And I would always say, I believe, it's a matter of choosing truth and what's right in that kind of situation, even if it means hurting someone that we love. And but like I said, Jesus said, I am the truth. And if you must hate your father and mother, or you're not worthy of me, which is the truth. You gotta love the truth basically more than you love your father and mother. So I think there's a time when argument is more important. When is that time? We gotta be wise, but there is that time. So let's see, 135 on the bar. Man, I love these workouts, and I love the fact that I'm feeling so much stronger. It's ridiculous. Just staying at the same weight, I'm feeling so much stronger. Of course, after this week, I graduate to the next weight. But what it made me think of when I was watching this YouTuber, and he was saying that one of the things he was saying was how if you lie in your marketing to sell something, it was vertical jump in this case. And if you say something like, hey, I guarantee you're going to be dunking in 2 weeks if you follow my program, if you purchase my program, and if you lie, He says, yeah, a lot of people will buy that. They'll purchase that. And the guy he's talked to was like, I don't know about that, but I commented, I said, I agree. You know, people believe lies. People, first off, they want something easy. They want the easy way out. But number two, people believe lies. And it made me think of the book of John, chapter 8, where Jesus is talking to this group of religious um, teachers. And they're claiming to, be basically a better person than Jesus. and Jesus is saying, look, if you worship God like you thought you did, you would listen to me. But the fact that you're not listening to me and I came from God shows that where your heart really is. And so basically Jesus, they were arguing with Jesus, and he basically said, look, you belong to your father, the devil. He says, your father, the devil, was a murderer from the beginning, and he's a liar. He's the father of lies. And when he speaks lies, he's speaking his native language. And basically he said, you're the children of the devil. So it makes me think, okay, if your father's native language is a certain language, and you're his child, you're going to speak that language too. If your father speaks Spanish and you grow up in that household, you're going to be speaking Spanish. And basically he was saying to them, look, your father's the devil. He speaks lies. He says, and that's the reason you don't listen to what I have to say, because I'm speaking the truth. And I think that's the reason a lot of people believe lies. Okay, I got 155 on the bar. Not horrible. 3 more sets. Yeah, I feel so bad for Damian Lillard. He just, they said he had a blood clot, so he's going to be out for some time because they are putting him on these blood thinners. And you can't play ball on the blood thinners in case you end up with an injury that causes bleeding. Then you can lose a lot of blood. So I feel bad for him. I know it's got to be scary. I know if I was in that situation, how I'd be feeling. So I just pray for him, Lord, that you just help him to recover quickly, and that he not be afraid, and that he don't have to face this again. I pray for anybody watching this that happens to watch this that's sick. I just pray the Lord heals you as swiftly as possible, and that he removes the discomfort. Anyway, I got the 170 on the bar. This is the high weight for the day. One more day of this, God willing, tomorrow, and then next week I'm planning on moving up to a 175. I think it's just about ready. So. Plenty. Not not as easy as yesterday. $135 again. All right, this is my last set. Body weights. Favorite set. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care. Have a good one.